Joe Jackson, The Collection. This is a bargain CD I almost certainly bought from Sainsbury's. In the mid-1970s pub rock years, when not seeing pub rock bands in pub rock pubs, I would see a covers band in a nightclub attached to a pub. They were what the Americans call a bar band. They played rock and soul covers. I learnt a lot watching the guitarist, like how to play the Born to Be Wild organ riff on a guitar. He played a Les Paul copy and I copied him by buying a similar guitar. One night the usual band were not there. In their place was a band playing quite aggressive, rocky original songs. They had a young but balding singer. He tore off his shirt, intimidated the other band members and seemed to think he was Iggy Pop. I was interested, but I was also of the same opinion as most of the audience in wondering who the hell he thought he was. After all, it was not an actual pub rock pub. It was years later when I found out he was Joe Jackson. He was doing punk before punk, but then a few years later he was late to the real party. Joe Jackson started getting radio play with songs that sounded like Elvis Costello and the other power poppy skinny tie acts of the day, like the Jags and the Vapors. His first real hit was Is She Really Going Out With Him? It had obvious derivative chords and lyrics. It was new wave by numbers. It was, however, annoyingly catchy. I did not want to like it. But the opening lyric, Pretty Women Out Walking with Gorillas Down My Street, was just so about my life. Next we got Different for Girls, a great song which did not sound like it was trying to be someone else. In the early 80s, Jackson put together a swing band which was not that unusual at the time, though it was not something I was interested in. Then he made an album called Night and Day. The big hit from that album was called Stepping Out, a song that had a driving rhythm that sounded like the sequencing work of acts like Kraftwerk or Giorgio Moroder. But it also had a very sophisticated and infectious melody. It was a musical cab ride through the sparkliest of nighttime cityscapes, to the swankiest hangouts of the coolest of the nightlife pleasure seekers. I actually bought a cassette of his following album, Body and Soul. It came about after he apparently found the perfect acoustic setting for a favourite grand piano. It is a beautiful sounding album with some great songs. It is a bit jazz, a bit Latin and a bit classical. It sounded so fresh, with real instruments sounding exactly as they should. It avoided all the excesses of 80s production. It turned out that all along Joe Jackson, the would-be punk, power popper and swing band leader, was actually an accomplished pianist. Joe Jackson, The Collection.